YouTube, welcome to Previa Mayhem 2, the sequel. It's been a fun couple days of working on the van for a few hours every day. 2 days ago, I finished Previa Mayhem 1 by getting that crankshaft pulley bolt to finally pop free, and I was so excited I just kept going. But there's been setbacks. I wasn't even sure this video would make it to YouTube. So I'm going to go ahead and do it. Please be kind in the comments down below. I've been out here suffering on this thing. Take a look at the shirt that was nice and clean a couple days ago. It's got black crud all over me from working on the front of that engine. And just stuff falling on me all the time. So I've been bloodied, I've been wounded, I've broken parts. But yeah, let's bring you up to speed where things stand today and what we're doing to move forward and get this thing resolved. Welcome back, YouTube. We are now in Previa Mayhem Phase 2. We're putting stuff back together, but check out what I bought. I did order like $200 worth of radiator hoses on MegaZip. Waited, finally got an email that they said, sorry, we don't have all those available. What do you want to do? They had 2 of them, which were pretty much just straight sections of hose. So I have purchased a bunch of Gates heater hose, and I think these are technically fuel line hoses, but they're suitable for coolant on the bypass hoses. So we're going to use a few of these. So hopefully I got enough to recreate what I need to make this van work. I also found I was going to create it out of silicone. I haven't checked to see if it's the right shape, but it looks to be roughly the right shape. But there on Rock Auto was a cork oil pan gasket for the Previa. So yeah, that's the lower one, which ironically the easiest one to get to didn't come in my set. It came with the side one, which you got to take the frickin' transmission off of, so that's an entire engine drop to get to. I also got this. This is the oil return tube. Comes off of the valve body, or not valve body, the... what's that called? The, is it a valve body? The head. Comes off the head, the valve head or whatever, the camshaft head, and returns oil to a tube, which puts it into the oil pan, where we're going to need that gasket right there. Check it out. This is what we've been trying to get to. This thing's been leaking for years. I've known about it. Remember, it's all oily, gross right there. Some of that was coolant from a bad water pump seal. But anyway, you can see around here, there's the crankshaft where the pulley was sitting, or harmonic balancer in this case, that mounts to that sad shaft. But you can see this cover has 9 screws on it. Those look like Phillips heads. Do not use a Phillips head socket on that, or impact or whatever. Phillips is going to strip those bolts out. They are actually Japanese industrial standard, which is a crisscross, but it has a different pitch on the angles on the inside. So a Phillips screwdriver or a Phillips bit is not going to sit in there properly, and it has very little bite, and it will strip them right apart, and you're going to end up drilling them. So I'm going to first clean this up. I already cleaned up the other side a little bit. Since it's sitting down here leaking, it's getting all the road grit and grime. I'm going to clean this up before I pull the face off. That red seal, this red seal, I have a replacement on that, I believe. I'm going to make sure before I rip it apart. It doesn't have to come off yet, but I'm going to clean it, and we're going to pull this face off. That harmonic balancer is laying right there. There it is. It came off super easy with just, I slid up in here with the pry bar and just kind of tapped it. It didn't even take much. It just came sliding off with the pry bar. It is a little heavy, so it was kind of hard to get it to move by my fingers, but the pry bar just moved it right off there. So once that bolt came out, it was a piece of cake. The bolt is fine. The threads are fine. You can tell that it was on an impact socket, but it's not stripped by any means. It's going to go back on there. But we'll get this cleaned up, and we're going to start pulling some stuff off here. Again, before you do this, I'm not going to give you the whole how-to. Go to Same, Previa Legend on YouTube. He's got a video on how to do this. He shows how to, these bolts, not only are they Japanese industrial standard, but they are in there with some Loctite. So you need to get that to break free before the bolts are going to break free. And he shows this how to do it on a extension with a bit and whack it with a hammer. Pop all these bolts hard. Break that Loctite seal, and then they come off really easy. But check out Same's video how to do that, and then be careful prying this plate off, because it's been on there for 30 years at this point, almost 300,000 miles, and 30 years it's been sitting there, so it does not want to break free. There are 2 pins. I believe there's one right here and another one up here, right? No, that's a screw. One of these, that's a screw. one of these is just a pin. I think it's this middle one. It is just a pin sitting in there, and so it doesn't want to allow it to rock. So when you pry it, you gotta be really careful that you're breaking it free evenly all the way around, because it has a tendency on this one, the hardest one to get to, pop the just a little bit of the edge of the pin on the crankcase, which is okay because it's not sealing anything there. But if you can get it off without breaking that part, that's the better way to do it. So that's what we're going to try to do today. Yeah, I'm not going to do a play-by-play. You can go to Same's video. He shows you how to do that. He is the professional. This is auto repair-tainment. So let's fall. I'll check back in with you when this is much further along. Hopefully that's still today. All right, YouTube, I just got to show you what the heck I'm seeing here. So let that light adjust. Let's see. Do you see what's on there? That is like some sort of silicone. Why would that be on there? This is not oil sealing anything to my knowledge. This is an oil seal. And there's an oil pump behind it with another seal on the shaft on the inside of that oil pump, I'm pretty sure. Why the heck would we need silicone sealer, RTV, room temperature vulcanization sealer, here on the back of that shaft? That makes no sense. Here's what that shaft looks like. There's the front. There's the back. It ain't sealing anything. I don't get it. We're gonna pull that off of there. I am going to pry some. Here's what I'm planning on doing. So I'm gonna go see if I can find one. I'm gonna use just this little pick and clean out these teeth on these crisscross bolts. I think they are the number 3 just by looking at it. The Japanese industrial standard number 3, which is the bigger, like a big Phillips, square, more flat on the bottom. So I am going to clean these out, and then I'm going to start popping it with the extension like Same says to do, and we'll try to pull these out. YouTube, there is the culprit. That black line coming all the way around here. It's just a squished old little thin O-ring. It just gets old and doesn't hold that seal anymore on the oil pump, creating pressure for the oil system. So that's got to be replaced. I haven't pried it out yet because I wanted to show you, but all 9 bolts came out. This pin stayed in its place. Doesn't even rock. This pin came out with the cover, but this is the one that always breaks the top of the pin holder, and it didn't even break. So I just used a small screwdriver and just kept prying until I could feel this whole thing kind of vibrating loose, and then kind of came up here and wedged in from this direction and got a little bit in there and just started twisting the screwdriver. Same thing on this side. The bottom's easy because you can access it from the bottom of the car, but this is harder and harder to get to on this top part. So yeah, just keep prying at it till everything comes loose, and then as it's loose, it just slides out. So yeah, that's it. I did if you go to, again, I'm recommending you go watch Same Previa Legends YouTube video channels on how to do this. But when I tapped my JIS number 3 driver bit, I used a quarter. Here's what I used. I used that ball peen hammer right there that I pulled out of a junkyard with, it's sitting over there. So I used that little whirly ratchet head, and I used I think that's a 7-inch extension with, it's a 7, I believe. Oh no, it's a 10-inch extension with a industrial or just whatever, imperial 1/4-inch driver on it, and then my little JIS number 3 sitting in it. I originally had it taped. I was going to do Same's technique and just tapping all 9 of these with the ball peen hammer and that extension on there, just to pop loose the seal on all of them before I tried to pop them with the regular ratchet. But my experience on the first one, which was this one, as soon as I hit it with the ball peen hammer and I went to pull the thing off to go do the next one, my JIS number 3 stayed in the screw. So I had to do them all individually and just popped them, put the ratchet on there onto the extension with it still stuck in there, and then it kind of just popped nice and easy. I did all 9 bolts are sitting right there. They are, none of them stripped. I do have 9 new of these bolts, so I'm going to replace them because these did not look perfect. I think this has been done once before. So I'm going to replace them, and we'll go with a new one since I ordered them, assuming I was going to strip one, but I didn't. So we'll replace them anyway. That's how it works. There's the cover with the pin still in it. We'll get this cleaned up. I do not have that seal, that size. It didn't come in my kit, and I didn't order one. So I am going to pull that out and I'm going to go to the parts store, see if they have one over here in Boulder. If not, I'll order one through the mail and we'll get this back together with a new one, because since it took me this long to get here, I'm going to do it while I'm in here, especially since it was leaking. So that's it. That's coming off, and we're back together soon. All right, YouTube, I got a new seal in here in the oil pump cover. It's cleaned up. Still had the peg. I just used Same's wooden handle of a ball peen hammer, that hammer you saw earlier, just on a wooden workbench so that the pin didn't get hit and I didn't warp it. Just tapped it until it set all the way down flush. I have one of the, this is original Toyota O-ring. This was a Toyota part as well. I'd ordered these several years ago when we went to go do this during COVID, and we stopped because we couldn't get these bolts to release, which was a good thing. So now I'm going to put this on, get a little oil on it, and get it back together. All right, YouTube, I'm going to take a pounding in the comments for this one. But when I pulled this off, there was a ton of silicone, gray silicone that I peeled all out. And I think it's from the crankcase cover that's on the bottom of the engine, which is the side on this car because the engine's laying outside. So what happened when I put this back together is I used the new screws, and they seemed to be softer than the old ones because they were I wasn't even close. They were 10 Newton meters, 8 foot-pounds. Wasn't even close to getting to a torque setting, and I started having it strip apart on these two up at the top. And then this one wouldn't tighten. I kind of wonder if it had bad threads and I didn't clean them first. But what happened was it just wouldn't tighten up, and then suddenly the screw snapped. And I have a screw down in there. It shaped itself like a point, so it came up on both sides when it snapped off. I can't tap it. I can't get in there to get it without coming down on the threads. So what I'm giving up on, I've drilled 2 holes into the side of it, and I'm just at this point pretty sure I'll never have threads again in that hole. So what I'm going to try to do is I put the silicone back in there. I think it came from the crankcase cover on the side. But I filled it back with the black silicone RTV gasket maker. Put it, the new O-ring is back in there, oil holding it together, re-oiled. Got a new oil rubbed onto the oil pump driven gear and the drive gear and the driven gear. And I'm going to put this back together with its cover. And I'm going to use 8 screws. This one's not going to have a screw, and I'm hoping this RTV helps seal that up. It can't be a ton of pressure here because it's just this little baby oil ring that's holding it. Actually, on mine, it wasn't even holding it. So let's see what happens. I've spent hours trying to drill that hole out and no success. So I'm expecting to take a pounding. So yeah, be kind. So quick update on the front of the engine down here. I'm kind of blocking and creating a shadow here with my head and the bars and the axle, but whatever. So there's the oil pump cover. You can see my missing bolt. I just kind of stuck a ton of RVT on that right-hand side. I still need to figure out if I can get these things to torque without using a torque wrench. I did notice I went back and watched Same's video. Again, links down below. He's the real guy who knows how to do this stuff. He was using a manual hammer impact to turn these screws. So I have a feeling I'm not the only one to break one trying to tighten these up. So he's kind of doing it with a much more forceful impact, pressuring them in. He must be doing it by sound and feel from all of those years of experience. Anyway, that's where we're at on that. I got some hoses back on here. I'm going to give you an update on hoses in a little bit. Note to self, I ordered $270 some, or I don't remember what the figure was, over $200 worth of hoses. Every single one of them, bypass hoses and radiator hoses from Megazip, and they are all no longer available. That's not true. There were 2 that were available, but they were simple and straight and not worth doing with the shipping. Didn't need to pay for shipping from Japan, so I'm doing that a different way, and we'll bring you up to speed on that in a little bit. What you see here is the thermostat's on. The thermostat's inside it. That's the housing mounted onto the water pump, and behind it, the water pump is all mounted back up. That's my new Gates water pump, and it's cleaned up. But that's what we look like on the front. There is the oil filter housing. It is back in place, and I'm going to come back to this plate cover with an impact set here in a little bit, and we'll see what happens. But that's the front of the engine update. Just piddle farting around on here the past couple days, putting stuff back together. So my hoses are going back in. This is the Gates Rock Auto hose from Gates. Fit perfect. Just had to trim it a little bit because it was too long. This one, on the other hand, I don't know what the hell I did when I measured this. It's just held on there. Actually, I cut it way too short. I'm not sure if I flipped it around and cut the wrong side. I honestly don't know what I did on this one, but it is not going to function anymore. So ordered a new one on Amazon. It'll be here tomorrow, or maybe today. This hose is in place. There's a little hose segment up here. These are just Gates heater hose stock on these two. It wants to collapse, but the bends on these two aren't too bad. Coming into the thermostat here, into the back on the back, straight into the water pump. Actually, misses the thermostat, so they're not too bad. I think it'll be okay. If not, I got another option for that, which I'll show you here in a second. But those hoses, this one is ordered. I had to order a replacement. Hopefully I do a better job of trimming. I don't know what I did wrong. Maybe I got this, I think I have this sitting in there backwards anyway. But yeah, we're going to start over on that one tomorrow. Up under the hood on the front of the car. So again, I'm running a bunch of new. I cut out all of these. So there's 3 of these small ones. One coming off the tube, coming off a tube, and then one going to the radiator, connecting the bottom of the reservoir. So this is all just loose, mounted back in here by finger tightening to get the hoses cut to length yesterday. I'm going to disconnect these and pull them out. I did these. This was some hose I got at O'Reilly's. I'll go over there and show you what the name of it is here in a little bit. But it does not collapse, and it can handle some pretty good bends. So yeah, it's pretty good stuff. Now I got to figure out. Can't see it back there, but my switch, or the valve switch, I can actually feel it on my hands. It's sitting in here loose. That's the 2 hoses, hose in and a hose out for the heater core. So there's the 2, there's an inlet and an outlet for the heater core back there. Those 2 coming out of the firewall. So that's where we're at on that. I got to connect the valve for the heater, cable actuated. So this is going to come back out, get it out of the way. These hoses will come off, so we're going to have a little bit of a setback, and I'll show you what I'm doing in here. Let's go do a quick review of what I got on hoses. Oh, wait. Probably one of the most fun things to do, and I say that with my tongue-in-cheek, is figuring out the angles of how I'm going to get all these clips back to work. Had to pull out some just regular manual ones. These are metric that I had in my... Most of these came out of the Volvo kit. But anyway, just where am I going to put these fasteners where I can actually get some small set of vice pliers on them and maneuver them around. So it is not easy. You kind of got to plan this out ahead of time, how you're going to maneuver these hoses and where you're going to put those clips. Obviously, this one's going to cut some fingers, or that's going to hurt when I reach in here and try to work on the battery, but I don't know how else to do it without when still gain access. So it's going to be hard to get those firewalls back here. I'm going to do those with these guys. These are a bunch of, these came from my Volvo. Yep, we're going to use these because they fit on that hose perfectly. But we can keep moving. Let's see what happens. All right, so that's showing you my heater valve right here. So it's got a line in the bottom, line out the back. It just has it, and it just works back and forth on this little toggle pulled by this cable. So it all comes apart nice and easy. I just have it kind of loosely bolted into place so I can kind of get the line fit. But yeah, getting that water tank back out, it's just sitting down there. Get it out. I'm going to leave these hoses in place. Well, maybe not this one. Actually, I'm going to pull these 2 off so I can get better access to get onto these bigger tubes and those 2 tubes and these 2 tubes and get some lines run. I did take a ton of pictures because there's no way I can see from the parts manual. The FSM, factory service manual, doesn't really give you the diagram of how these lay out. I took a ton of photographs, which I'm throwing up right now, as I took this thing apart, and kind of gave me the idea of how to get it back together. So that's the big plan. Okay, so I keep pulling these up on my phone, these photographs, and I keep looking at them to make sure I got these lines going to the right place. So hopefully it all works out. What are the chances? All right, so check this out. Even with the red rigid, it still wants to collapse at this sharp of a bend angle. So this hose is supposed to come out, turn, go behind these rails, come up here, and come straight in right here into the back of, comes around the back, up here, another S turn, and comes into the back. Not gonna work. Oh, I'm deep in it now. I'm looking on Megazip's website on the 2, what the heck is that engine? It is a 2TZ FE 1994 engine diagram, a TCR20. It is an LE model on Megazip's website because these diagrams are interactive. That's very different. This has it going straight into the heater core from the valve. So I started doing some research, pulled my Haynes manual. I'm like, man, that looks different. Here's the heater core coming out, and you can see the cable is sitting in there. All of that sits down low because the whole heater valve is way down here On my car, the SC supercharged, this is in the same spot, but the cable's way up here and the valve sits here, not down there. So I have a feeling it's because of this. The alternator's moved up here. The alternator must be in a different spot on the non-SCs. I know the battery on those is over here because the whole intake's much simpler without the supercharger. So I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to have to call in a lifeline and probably call Same and do some more web research because this is not going to work. Well, the ass kickings have continued. The Previa van does not disappoint. Plan 9,000 at this point is I need to get some hose benders, springs, and hose stock, and we are going to custom shape 3/4 inch and 3/8 inch hoses, Gates heater hoses, so that they will fit without bending and crimping. So yeah, you can't get these anymore. They don't sell them online, only for natural aspirated. So supercharged people, beware if you cut these. Alright YouTube, quick update. This project just keeps dragging on and on as I get new parts arriving from all over the place. But here's where we're at today. I confused this part. This is actually the oil return line where it hooks. This is the seal for where it hooks onto the bottom of the cylinder head, I believe, for the oil return to the bottom oil pan. I confused that for this resin one. It's all cracked and broke because it was in my pocket. So when I put that on, they're not exactly the same shape. It doesn't fit. It warped it, popped the seal apart, so I got to order a new one of those. Right there it is, as well as one of these. So that showed up. I do have the oil return hose and 2 clamps. Gonna put that on there. I do have the I have the gasket for the oil pan, a cork gasket. Gonna put that on the bottom. And today we're also gonna play with some gates. We got, what is this? Gates 37, I can't remember, what is this? Gates 3270 safety stripes, so 3/4 inch, 19 millimeter heater hose. We are going to use a new spring pipe or tube bending kit. So you basically slide the tube in there. It allows it to take a bend without that collapse. So you can take a shape, put it in where you need it, mount it on one side, shove the spring in the other way, heat it up with a heat gun, let it cool down, and it will hold its shape without damaging the hose. And then you just slide the spring out. So that's the plan. We're going to recreate these because those were originally a massive assembly that came all put together, and that's no longer available, and you can't get the hoses. So we've got to create these ourselves, and we'll see where this goes. I did buy 10 feet because I'm assuming I'm going to screw up several times. After several weeks of setbacks, I finally have something back on the car with some modicum of success. So 13 foot-pounds on the 12 millimeter bolts, 4 of them. And look at that, the gasket is the proper gasket. It fit like a piece of cake, like it was meant to go there. Minor success. Now let's put that gasket and oil pan back. 5.4 Newton meters on these 10 millimeter pan bolts. I get to break out the old bike racing torque wrench. Thanks, Barkley. What is that, 1/4 inch drive? Tiny. Little tiny 10 millimeter bolts, and made sure this whole gasket fits. Let's mount this baby up and tighten her away. And now I know why everyone uses RTV sealant instead of a cork gasket, because it's a lot easier to just put the goop on there and shove it up and bolt it in than it is to get that flimsy cork gasket all in the right place. I do have it all the way around. I'll come around to the back. Oh, that's close and tight because I don't have a lift. There you go. You can see it right there. See the cork between the cast iron block and the steel oil pan? Yeah, see it? Oh, well, here I can go up a little higher. There we go. See it? It goes all the way down the edge. Can't really get the camera angle to show you, but you can see it going all the way down the edge on both sides. I basically used a little itty bitty tall small screwdriver and would put it in and get one screw lined up, and then use the screwdriver a couple of way, little baby screwdriver, to kind of pull the hole on that one into proximity, and it would bring the one that I needed to put a screw into close. So I just kind of wormed my way around all the way. I did take this out. The oil level sensor, I did take that out. I need to get 2 other bolts because 2 of them are old and stripped, or like stripping. So I need to get 2 of the bolts replaced, and then we should be good to go. Yeah, keep moving, and let's see if I can replace that radiator hose on the bottom and get the right length this time. And just like that, I have my Gates 21660 hose. Do not cut it. How I figured this out was put it on this end first, because this is the awkward angle. Get that square, and then you can just flex it enough to slide the whole thing onto this end, where it goes up towards the front, onto the big pipe for the radiator. And then it just locks in. So I have a feeling after this thing heats up, it's going to reshape just a little bit. And you can kind of see that. I'm going to roll out. Sorry for the motion sickness. Here's the one I cut. Full length. Do not cut it. And it just has a little bit different by being in there and being heated up. It just has a little bit different angle. It's not as abrupt. It's a little bit, see how that is? And then, yeah, it's just kind of stretched out. It's like been squished down just a little bit instead of being so square. So it allowed it to stretch out and then heat up and get that angle to go into the thermostat. So that's it. It's in. All right, YouTube, so here's the theory. We're going to start with this one first. It goes on the bottom. It's the sharpest little bend, and the other two are kind of going around it. So we're going to set this one first. It was the most problematic. But the theory is I slide in one of these flexible springs. Just fits inside. And remember what this looks like when I go to bend it sharply. This is some of the just stock hose. It collapses. But when I put that spring in there, now I'm trying to do this one-handed, not easy. Let's do it this way. There you go. Watch, watch, watch. So watch. I can now bend it as far as I want, and the spring keeps the rigidity of the hose open. I heat it with the heat gun. It relaxes, and then I can pull the spring out. That's the theory. So what we're going to do is we're going to mount this end onto the base where it's coming out of here, I believe. Or it's the top one. It's the top one, and it's got to get to here. I'm going to look at my picture from before, but it's just got to do this little bend. I'm going to mount it here, and then I'm going to put the spring in from the bottom. I measured this one at about 8 inches, and I cut it at 9, so I have a little extra. And I'm going to flex it, heat it, next to where it goes, rotate it, and put it in. Cut it to fit. Let's see if that works. Okay, so I have a clamp on the top where it comes out of the heater coil in the car. And then I have it running out. I've already kind of heated it up a little bit. And then what I decided to do is I still have the spring in it, so it's not collapsing. It's still a little warm. I heated it up a little bit, so it'll be a little bit more flexible. I zip tied it down here to the tube. See where my finger's coming out at the bottom? It's zip tied right there, and this is along the tube it's going to be, so it's kind of getting that right angle, and then I'll trim it when it's finally shaped. I'll disconnect it up here, pull it apart, pull the spring out, cut it to the right length if it's got the hole in the shape. But I'm going to heat it up in this configuration because that's pretty simple. All I got to do is rotate it to get it to the right spot, and I think I'll be good to go. I might need to reshape this side just to give it a little bit of bow like that, little S. But should be good to go here. Let's see what happens. All right, this one's almost down to room temperature, just a little bit warmer than room temperature. So I'm gonna let that one sit. And now I taped this I had to cut this one apart. So I taped it back together, and I stuck this next. I have 2 sets of those springs that fit, so 2 of each size. So I'm gonna experiment. This one comes out of the wall like that, and then it goes around the back of the coils up and gets an angle to come down. So I'm gonna experiment with this 90-degree. Right here, just outside of the car, and see if I can hold it and get it to hold its shape and just kind of play with it. I don't know how long I have to let it cool. That's the thing. I'm just going to play and see what happens. Alright, so trying to get this shape in place in the car and doing it, mounting it on different sides and coming back and trying to get it close. I got a little bit more bend out of it, but if it goes all the way to get it into place, it still is crimping pretty significantly. So that is not working. So what I'm trying to do now is I'm just going to try to get roughly that bend in place. And this one's actually toasty warm. Toasty, toasty, toasty warm. I just heated this one up with that bend. That's roughly what I need. Then I'll cut the middle out and get it to fit. And then over here, I'm doing the same thing on the S-curve. So these are cooling down right now. Not as hot anymore. But my hope is I can get this bend and that bend to roughly stay in place and stay open. And then I can reshape it in place to get it to where I need to be, just so it stays open without crimping, mount it up, and then the thought is once it starts running and operating, it's going to get up to coolant temperature, which is almost boiling, 200 degrees, and 200 degrees Fahrenheit or so, and it will reshape itself to where it needs to be. But I just need to get it to go in, mount up without crimping in these major corners. All right, YouTube, they've cooled down. Here's what we've got. This one is holding its shape. The springs are removed. That wasn't easy to get out, but I'm hoping this bend right here, I can cut this one to get it to match up enough. And then look, I do have my S-curve. It's not collapsing, so it's holding it. No springs in there, so let's see if I can get these to mount up. All right, there's the top one. It's got a little bit of a crimp right where my finger's at, and a little bit of a crimp right here at the bottom, right back behind there. This one has a little bit of a crimp right behind where my finger's at. So they're holding their shape better. I got them cut to the right lengths. They're in place. I can actually get this to work. So one at a time, I'm gonna have to run the spring through this one, and I'm gonna run it back this way and see if I can get it to reset in place and just leave it where it's at. So we'll see what happens. All right, cut this one down to where it fits, and I'm gonna bend it tighter. I tightened up that zip tie just a little bit. We're gonna reheat this one, let it cool down overnight, and then I ran the coil backwards right next to where it's gonna be, so I'll rotate it just a little bit once it's in there, so it clears this, so the other one can get in here to connect right there. That's that really sharp bend. But there's my S-curve. I got the spring pushed all the way down into where it's mounting up against the metal, and no crimping. So I just got to heat it while it's in place and let it cool down sitting like that. Obviously this needs to move one hose distance over. It's just sitting right next to where it goes under this little lip. So yeah, that's the plan. I can just rotate it over there and yeah, hopefully just heat it up, and we're gonna let it cool one more cycle. Check it out, YouTube. I finally got this one holding a pretty good shape. It's a little bit flattened right where my finger's at, but not fully crimped. I think it's gonna be fine. That one's just hard to get it to hold its shape on that sharp of a bend with that little twist in it. It's just not quite directly there. This one now has the right curve. The spring is actually pulled out, and it is mounting and coming around to the back. This is where the hot water comes out of here. Does an S turn around both of these in the bottom. This valve opens up, open or close. When that's open, it allows the hot water to come around the back of this hose, down around the back of those lines, and in to the heater coil, and it comes out here and returns. So this one's got the right shape now at the bottom, no crimp whatsoever. I let it set for 2 days in there. And then now, I actually did this is the second time I've done this one, because the first time I did it too short, and it wasn't all the way back against the firewall, and it was making this bend too quickly, and it was just, I couldn't get it to stop crimping. So this is second attempt, a little bit too long. We'll trim it down here like it's coming all the way to my finger, so it needs to stop back here, not here. So we'll trim a little bit out of it. I have extra hose than I need, but just heated it up. Gonna leave it sitting with the spring in it from this side. Just heated that one up. We'll let it sit overnight. I'll deal with it tomorrow. And then all we need now is this one does the S bend right across the top and right in. And I'd already set the bend here with it just braced under there. It's set for 2 days and it was fine. So now I put the double bend in it with this. Ooh, that's hot. Don't want to touch that. It's a little warm on the fingers. So I heated this one up, so now it's got more S bend than it needs. It will relax when I take it out of here. So it will sit and it will make the run. Here's the one that came out. It's just got to do this little run right there. Goes from there to there. Piece of cake. So it just rotates back in. So that's it. See it? That's a little update. We're getting closer. Closer, closer, closer. Now, if MegaZip would just get me my SADS bolts, I could get this thing mounted back together and then play with the top of the engine. Hint, hint. Alright, playing 9,280 on this radiator hose. The only one I've got that I actually like the way it's working is this one, the simple S-turn. Did that one tonight. I'm redoing this short one because I didn't like the way it was folding flat. And I have the double bend coming in out of the bottom one. So these two are hot right now. I don't even want to touch them. This one and that one are hot. But you can kind of see, I don't know if you can see it, but I have the spring in there going out the bottom. So it's mounted on the top where it comes out of the radiator. The spring is going down. You can't see it. It's going back, tucked in back there. And then I bent it sharper than it needs to be with 2 zip ties holding it on the pipe. Heated it up, so it's hot to touch right now. This one I've heated up again with the coil is still in it, so it's running through from the top and then it's sitting almost all the way at the bottom. So running this one again, gonna let them sit overnight in the position that they're at. Just need to trim a little bit off this one when it's done. Up there at the top, trim a little bit off. It'll slide over, grab an angle. But this, let's see if I can get this one a little bit better. I had it with this one. It just kept crimping a little bit. Jesus, it was crimping a little too flat on me. I don't like the way it just wants to do that, and the longer it sits, the flatter it seems to be getting. So I'm going to redo it, let that sit tonight. Got next one nice and hot. Thank God I bought 10 feet of that stuff, because that's all I got left. I don't know what that is, but that's it. That's all that's left in the makings here, so hopefully this version works, and we'll try it tomorrow. Alright, they seem to be holding their shape pretty well. Stayed in place overnight. They're all nice and cool. This is my favorite one. That actually might work. Just trimmed like a little finger distance off of the top, so let's see if I can get it in there and see if they don't collapse. Alright, YouTube, those 3 heater hoses are in. That's the best I'm going to get them. I'm still not happy with this one. It's still pinching just a little bit in. It was perfect when the coil's inside of it, but just it can't keep that structure once the coil's removed. This bend is perfect now. It's not collapsing at all, but it is collapsing just a little bit right here. Not as bad as this one. This is the worst offender. So that's all as good as I'm going to get it. I'm going to tighten it up, and we're going to call this good. I hope these hold, because I got to pull the battery out and a whole bunch of stuff to get to them. So let's just hope this works. Yep. There it is, YouTube. Thank God I took a ton of photos when I took this apart, because I couldn't remember where these hoses went. Off the radiator in the front, curves really sharply. I had to trim that one a little bit shorter. This one goes down to the bottom, down behind the battery. And then this one coming out of the firewall comes into... Oh, that goes... Oh, into the back. Right there. Into the back where my finger's at. See it coming around? So it goes behind the other one coming up and goes into... Wait. I'm losing that. From the back. So, okay, the firewall one. Got this totally backwards. I still can't remember it. Thank God I took photos. I'm going to look at my photo again just to be sure. This one comes around, goes behind the one coming up, and bends up. The one in the back comes off of the tube, comes up and goes into the back of here. And then this one's obviously just curling in front. Remember, this is just the overflow, and it just drops down in there, hangs down in there, just drips down by the battery. So I'm leaving the battery disconnected because we got more work to do, and I don't want to connect any electrical on here yet. So that's a wrap for here. YouTube, finally got a FedEx today from Japan. Mega Zip came through on some much needed parts. So Previa's going back together. We're going to wrap up phase 2. The heater hoses are put together in the front. I'm going back underneath, and I'm going to put together the SADs, the accessory drive, and the drive shaft are going back on the car. And yeah, we're going to wrap that. Phase 2 is going to wrap up today, and we're going to start phase 3 tomorrow. Stay tuned. YouTube, phase 2 is complete. That's a wrap. It's all back together. Heater hoses, custom made are in the front. All those hoses are back on. Heater hoses or radiator hoses are underneath. All the SADs is back on. All of the drive shaft is back on. I'm going to go underneath. I'll show you. It's all cleaned up. Tomorrow, going to do phase 3. It's actually going to be kind of fun. Stay tuned. I might just fall asleep under here looking at this. I'm comfortable and it's tired. I'm late. This thing kicks my ass every time, but it's back together. Hoses are on. You can see those hoses. I put the old oil filter back on because we're going to lower the engine down tomorrow. Starting phase 3, there's a hint. New O-ring back behind here. All mounted back up with the SAD shaft and the BMW conversions. New hose way back up in there. I got the new thermostat inside here, inside this housing, and then the water pump back behind it. There's no coolant. There's no oil in the car. There's a new gasket on the oil pan. I still haven't connected this little tube yet. I think I'm going to pull this side off when I do the next phase. I'll show you in a little bit. We'll do that next time. But here, let me flip around. Oh my gosh. All right, let me stop this. We'll flip around and show you the front. And there's the front. You can see the axle is back in place. The differential's back up where it belongs. I did add new supercharger oil while I had the differential drop down. The axle was dropped. The SADs is back in up here. Oh, can we even see it? Oh, there it is. Drive shaft. I got a rolling light on the floor. That was kind of a cool effect. Yeah, special effects here at Jamie Cars. So I'll drop up here. See that? There's the drive shaft from way back in the back coming to the front. And then the SADS shaft over there. So it's a wrap. It's ready to go. If I put fluid in it, and if I put some oil in it and some coolant back in it, bled the coolant, we could start it up right now. But we're going to do phase 3. So stay tuned. Alright, YouTube, you stuck with me this far. I'm going to give you the sneak peek. Passenger seats laying in the back. Covers off on the passenger side, front side of the engine. This is the top of a normal engine, but it's on Previa, it's on the side. So there's my this is the valve cover. There's the cylinder head, fuel injectors. Yeah, this is coming off tomorrow. There's the little baby header down there with the heat shield because my package from Japan showed up. There's 10 head bolts. 2 of them that go near these 2 go near the on the timing end. On this end, the 2 on the outside, they don't have the same bolt, same strength. And then yeah, we're good to go. There's washers for the bolts. And yeah, I'm gonna start. I got a new 14 millimeter 12 point. So we are going to do the head gasket. It came in my gasket seals kit for the engine. Might as well give it a shot while I got it here. I'm assuming these vans are easy to work on when they're on a lift, because with this, what do I have for space here? Jesus, almost dropped the creeper into the car. I'm tired. It's been another day of getting my ass kicked. But there you go. See, it's not very high off the ground, and I'm underneath there working on it. It is hard to get any leverage and do anything. It's brutal. There's the new hoses. That's it. I'm checking out. Stay tuned for phase 3 head gasket.